Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson last night hinted at new sanctions against Russia over its actions in Syria. Well, today, the editor-in-chief of Russia Today said that the broadcaster's bank assets had been blocked in the UK. But the British government says it isn't behind the decision. And tonight, NatWest Bank says it was reviewing the situation. Diana Magne has the story.
And going back now to our top story here on RT International, all of our channel's bank accounts have been blocked in the UK without any explanation.
So according to Russia Today, NatWest has told them they can no longer bank with them. NatWest, part of Royal Bank of Scotland Group, majority owned by the Treasury. A British state bank, which RT says no longer wishes to provide banking services to a Russian state broadcaster. In a letter from NatWest published on RT's website, the bank writes, "We have recently undertaken a review of your banking arrangements and have come to the conclusion that we will no longer provide these facilities. You will therefore need to make alternative banking arrangements outside of the Royal Bank of Scotland Group. Our decision is final." The message from the Prime Minister's office that this has nothing to do with the government, that banks must decide whose money they manage depending on their appetite for risk.
But I would certainly like to see demonstrations outside the Russian embassy.
Given the rebukes that Russia has come in for recently, RT is crying foul.
So it's a very dangerous step to use banking practices in this way to obviously stifle freedom of speech in a country which has no written constitution.
In a comment on her Facebook page, Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said it looked like that in leaving the EU, Britain had left its freedom of speech obligations behind in Europe. But is this really the one big conspiracy that RT would like to suggest?
I think it's much more likely that the NatWest Compliance Department has looked at the RT account and decided that essentially the risks and the rewards don't match up. This is presumably just a payroll operation. It isn't a very profitable account for NatWest to hold, but the reputational risk about being associated with such a controversial organisation is very high.
Russia Today is nothing if not controversial. Owned by the Kremlin and rabidly anti-US, it plays host to a gallery of well-known critics of the West and dedicates a lot of its time to rebutting what it calls the mainstream media, turning the narrative of Russia as perpetrator of war crimes in countries like Ukraine and Syria on its head, even if its staff deny any kind of political directives from the Kremlin. Tonight, though, some confusion. RBS issuing a statement in the last hour saying, "These decisions are not taken lightly. We are reviewing the situation and are contacting the customer to discuss this further." Perhaps the reputational risk of pulling the plug on RT is causing second thoughts.